Yo, what up, everybody? How you doing? This is your coach Renz, and welcome to Deconstructing Christianity. I will be your guide, your host, your coach on your journey of deconstructing from this religion that has done so much damage to us all into this world. So I'm going to ignore Tim for right now and let a few more people get on here before I explain that, sir. But welcome, Tim. I just can't let me get away with nothing. Can't get away with nothing around these parts. But if you're finding us for the first time, we deconstruct Christianity on this channel. And we also talk about a few other subject matter, but most of the time we stick to deconstructing Christianity. Uh, if that hurts your sensibilities, then you probably shouldn't be here. Now, if you are so first, I always like to give gratitude. So I want to thank everybody who supports the channel this way. Young lady, there was a new person who supported the channel this way the other day, and I greatly appreciate that. I told my wife it was birthday. It was because her birthday is coming up. That's why she supported the channel that way. Those who purchase cigars by going to emailing me at masteringyou10@gmail.com. My wife rolls her own cigars. Thank you for that. As well as those who are my clients that we do personal one-on-one coaching with. I want to thank you guys as well. Those who are members to the channel, members on YouTube, like Wrath, thank you for being a member. I see you, Wrath. Thank you for being here. Wrath and Tim are always the first one. Everybody who's a subscription holder on Facebook. Hey, Debbie. Thank you, Debbie, for being here, being subscription holders. Thank you for your support of the channel. And I look forward to many years of being here with you guys. We take the first 5 minutes just to be here, let people get on, arbitrary conversations, people trying to throw me under the bus like Tim. It's all right. We usually go live every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 8 p.m. I'll tell you about yesterday in a minute. But I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you very much. So if there's anything that needs to be stated before we get started, go ahead. Tonight's conversation is going to be about the accuracy of Roman historians on Christianity. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. Snappy hat, bro. Yeah, it was. Tim always got something to say. It was 104 degrees today, so needed to wear the hat with some airflow today. Had to have an airflow hat today. It was hot. It was a hot one. So that's what we had to do, and that's what we did. I'll be damned. I just loaded another video twice on YouTube. I mean on Facebook. What up, Volta? Yes, so it was a hot one. I guess you got to have some accountability partners and stuff, huh? I guess you got to have somebody keeping you accountable. And so I guess I'll take it. I will take it. But I do appreciate you guys tremendously. A lot of good things happening here recently. Yeah, I couldn't help it. Some good things, interesting conversations I've had. So look forward to it. Getting ready to get started here in a second. Kind of light up my La Angelina cigar. Yes, I know. If Tim didn't had nothing to say, then Wrath would be on my back. All right, I don't mind. Y'all keep me honest. help keep me dedicated. Because I told my wife last night, when we were driving home at 10 something at night, I said, Raph or Tim gonna have something to say about the fact that we didn't have a live yesterday. One of them gotta have something to say. So I knew what was coming. I knew what was coming. So before we get started, to answer Tim's question. So yesterday I fully intended to do a live as normal on a Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I had some appointments to take care of, so I drove my wife to work. After we left, because her birthday is this weekend, we had to run a couple of errands. And because it was 100 degrees yesterday, and when we got to pick up some cigars, that the celebration cigars, because we got to have the Pappy Van Winkle cigar for her birthday. When we stopped to pick that up, and we figured we'd have a little drink too. Still would have given us plenty of time to get home and do the live. But see, what had happened was there was a gentleman who showed up around 5:40, and been cultivating a relationship with him, businessman and all. And so he brought up a conversation about business that I couldn't walk away from, which may develop into further business between he and I over the next few months. And if it works out, it'll be a business proposition that'll last for years, if not generations. So that's the reason why I didn't do a live yesterday, is because now I got to put together this perspective. I got to put together a perspective for this business, if it works out, he will be funding this adventure, and yes, it's in the cigar industry. Yeah, so it's a cigar oriented business. Oh, hey. So I hope y'all accept my apologies for not being here yesterday. But when certain business opportunities come your way, or possibilities of business, you got to take the time out for them. Especially after we just talked about finances last night, right? As part of our conversation last night, we talked about finance. So, you got it. So that's why I wasn't here last night. Tariffs have already increased cigar prices. Oh. Other than Connecticut leaves, almost every other leaf, pretty much every leaf that's used in a cigar comes from another country. So the tariffs are, so there's a bunch of leaves and cigars that's already been shipped to America, and they're going ahead and putting tariffs on those cigars already. Some people are smart enough and they're saying, hey, tariff-free cigars, but then the next few months, as new leaves and new cigars are being shipped in, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. So, yeah. What you would have spent on $1,000 worth of cigars to build a humidor, you about to spend about $1,500, $1,600, $1,700. All right. So the conversation today, or at least the initial conversation today. So if you was watching the video, I know I posted my videos later than normal because let me tell y'all something real quick. Let me tell y'all something. And it's so interesting how things have happened over the last couple of days. And so we were talking about finances, right? Yesterday. I had a one-on-one client earlier today. And we got into a discussion about community as part of our conversation. Now, most of you know that I really came onto the scene when me and Kevin Wesley was doing a lot of videos together on his channel. So we talked about the fact that Kevin is getting ready to move down to Medellin, Colombia, and he wants to build this program down there. What's interesting is that a few years back, me and Kevin was having a conversation, and I was telling him about Medellin, and I told him about Togo, Benin. We talked about a few places. And now he's getting ready to move his family down there and wants to build a community. So I did talk to him today as well. But the vortex that I'm talking about is the fact that 3 weeks ago, me and my wife, we saw this One Cigar Lounge. We saw how great concept, not done properly. So we start contemplating how we would do it and how we would make it better and make it something that you can push now, even continue to grow. So the vortex is this. The conversation with Kevin was very interesting. And you guys are going to hear more of that conversation on Monday because he's going to come on my live on Monday. And then to have the conversation with that gentleman last night, my wife and I have been talking about this variation of the cigar business, this type of situation set up for the cigar business. We were just talking about it. We were looking at it as something we might be able to do 4 or 5 years from now. But we were putting it together like, if we had the money to do it now, how would we do it? And then we've always talked about moving somewhere else, leaving this country, just all these things. And then just in a matter of less than 24 hours, well, within 24 hours, it just, opportunities and pathways showed themselves up. And that's my point. You never know. The more you think about something, then the more you take actions towards those things, you never know when those actions will bear fruit, nor do you know the pathway that is going to bear fruit. This is why it's so important to set yourself up on things. Yeah. From the first business plan that I've ever done back in 2008, was that 2008? Yeah, 2008. It's the first time I ever did a business plan. And it took me a year to develop that business plan, the way that my mentor had me doing it, who also happened to be my investor. And from that business plan, I have developed multiple other plans. So when this gentleman spoke to me last night, where it would normally take somebody 6 months to develop a business plan for what we was talking about, I can get it done in about 3 weeks or less. Actually, really, I can get it done in a week because I already got a foundation. You see what I'm saying? That foundation from 2008 is still providing dividends to this day. So the more you move towards getting something, setting yourself up, that's when opportunities, serendipitously, as they would say, show up in your life. Now for the shameless plug. This is why, other than the people who have already signed up, because a few people have already signed up for this seminar, this is why you need to sign up for Financially on Fire, where I'm going to not only take you through a basic 101 class on finances and credit to get you in a foundation to be able to establish your situation better, come out of the dumps of it, or improve it, or see how and learn how you can take advantage of it. And not only will you get the seminar, but years ago, I had a book created. I used a ghostwriter for most of it, but I had a book created, which is it's called Financial Alchemy. It's a DIY to finances and credit restoration. You're going to get a copy of that book as well when you sign up for this. So on the day that we do this on June 1st, 2025, you'll also receive the book, because if I try to tell you everything in the book when it comes to the credit portion, if I try to do that on the seminar, it would take a whole weekend, 8 hours a day. That's how much information is in this book. So $10 is all that it costs, so that you can have, as Tim know that I like to say, so you can have some walk around money. So sign up for the seminar. You can find a description. You can find the link to that seminar in the description of this video, of this live. So sign up today. Goes June 1st. Look forward to it. Now to the subject matter. So the two videos that I posted earlier today, well, a couple hours ago, on Facebook and YouTube and TikTok, they deal with, one deal with an Egyptian artifact, and the other one deals with a Hellenistic Roman artifact. And these artifacts, will the copies be autographed? No, they're digital. You're getting a digital copy of the book, man. Digital copy. So you came in right on time, Isaac, because we're just not getting started. So one of the videos that I posted today, well, both of them deal with artifacts. One with an Egyptian artifact, the other one deals with a Roman Hellenistic artifact. And when I was doing the video about the Roman artifact, which is called the Nazareth inscription, as I was going through that video, one of the things that struck me while I was actually while I'm in the midst of talking on the video, a thought came through my mind. Because so according to Suetonius, who was born in 62 CE and died, no, 69 CE and died in 122 CE. Suetonius is considered one of the better Roman historians, and he wrote he basically wrote chronicles about previous emperors, one being Claudius, another being Nero. Now, a lot of Christians like to use the fact that Claudius, in Claudius 45, that Suetonius talks about Claudius expelling the Jewish population out of Rome because of an agitation from Crestius. Most scholars think that it's hyperbole that he used the term all, and that it was only certain ones that was expelled, because previous emperors had expelled certain individual Jews or people or smaller groups, whether it's Tiberius in 19, who only expelled one person or a small group of people, basically a business group of people who had frauded a Roman noblewoman. But they liked the Claudius one because Claudius did this supposedly in 49. And because the agitator named Crestius was the one who did it, who created it, Christians like to go back and say Crestius, he misspelled Christians. He really meant Christians, which at that time frame were considered a subset of Judaism. And so it falls in line with Luke in his writings of Acts, in Acts 18, when Aquila and Priscilla are left Italy and met with Paul. Now, there's nothing that says that Priscilla and Aquila were Jewish, that they were Jewish women. They were Hebrew women, so let me not say that. It nothing says that they left Rome. It just says they left Italy. So they try to make that seem like, oh, that proves Paul existed. That proves that these women would have left. And we know that many of the stories of Acts are written after, decades after Paul supposedly lived. But they take Suetonius' writings and say, oh, that proves it. When in fact, Suetonius wasn't talking about all, wasn't talking about Christians, because it's not until he writes the chronicles of the history of Nero, and in Nero 19 is the first time Suetonius mentions Christians. So this is, and Nero 19 is written after Claudius 45. So this is why most scholars do not take Crestius as a group of people, but that he means an individual who was named Crestius, and that's what he was talking about. So he wasn't writing about Christians. So this doesn't put Christians in Rome at that time frame of 49 CE. Christians might have been in Rome. It's possible if you were to believe in the Jesus story. But since we don't believe in the Jesus story, we know that the Jesus story was not created until around 70 CE. There were no Christians in Rome during that time frame. So it got me thinking about all these other historians, so-called historians, who are just really writing what others have said, or they are facilitating propaganda. We know that the Vespasians, they were big propagandists and like to restructure history. They were the ones who said they had Tacitus right that Nero was fiddling on the roof when Rome was burning. Nero was burning Christians in his garden and using them as torches. See, a lot of Christians like to say that they were burning Christians along the street if you needed to light something, but that comes from the fact that Tacitus wrote that Nero was burning Christians in his garden for light. Now, what we do know of actual history is that when Nero might have started the fire, but Nero was in Rome, not fiddling on the roof. He was organizing fire brigades, and he opened up his garden for people to come and stay there as a refuge, whose houses and shit was burning down. But Vespasian or Titus, but the Piso Flavians orchestrated a rewriting of history through people like Tacitus to say otherwise as propaganda. And we know these propagandas exist in this country. If you don't know, I'm gonna let you know. George Washington never chopped down a cherry tree. This was propaganda that was created for a political drive to show that he's such an honest person. So that's a made-up story of him chopping down a cherry tree and telling his daddy, I cannot tell a lie. Him having wooden teeth is made up. No, he snatched the teeth out of his slaves and put them in his mouth. So we know that these propagandists is a normal thing, right? So when Tacitus writes about Christians being, and that Christians believe that Pontius Pilate had crucified the Jesus character, he wasn't validating Jesus existed. He was talking about what people believed. So in the 100th CE, can we trust that Tacitus? I mean, can we trust Tacitus' accounts and say that that is proof of Jesus, when really all it is him writing about what people were believing in the 100s? And because he's a historian, people take that information as if that is what was actually happening. But you would think in 100, Tacitus would have easily been able to recognize that there were no Christians in early first century Judea. There were none. Now, as far as the city of Rome burning, there are contemporary um, historians who wrote about the burning of Rome. People who were there at that time frame. There were writings from them. I can't. You have to look up some of the name. But if you research the burning of Rome, the Great Fire of Rome, you can find that there are contemporaries. Unlike with the Jesus story, you have no contemporary historians writing about Jesus. If such a large movement was happening, somebody would have wrote about it. The first historian that writes about anything, any Christians existing, is Josephus. And he's not writing about this until around 90 CE, between 70 and 90 CE. He doesn't write about this when he was a young historian, when he was in around 50, in around 60 CE, writes nothing about him. And you would have to think that he would have known, right? Wouldn't you think that Josephus, living in Galilee, was already a man of prominence who was sent on envoys and ambassadorships to Rome when under Nero? What's up, Lucian? Salute to you. What up, Dwayne? You would think that Josephus would have wrote about this movement of Christians who were believing in this resurrection story, that a man rose up from the dead, and there were people believing in that, and that was a threat to the establishment in Judea. Before he became captive by Vespasian and his son Titus, when he was just writing, he didn't write a thing about it. No. He doesn't write anything about Christians until he's in Rome, until somewhere around 75, 80 to 90 CE. That's the first time Josephus mentions these different Yeshua types, where there's the one that has a brother named James, the other one who's a Pharisee, the other one who actually is questioned by a Roman governor. None of these stories are written by Josephus before then. It is not until he becomes living in Rome, has an apartment, on Vespasian estates, is given a wife, and has title. Then all of a sudden he writes about him, and then all of a sudden there's a movement that happens. And because things are backdated under Vespasian, in which we saw he backdated things with Nero, then why wouldn't he backdate things with this whole movement of Christianity? And as we discussed on Monday, where this idea of Paul is an agent of Rome. So when Suetonius starts writing, when Pliny starts writing, when Tacitus starts writing, they're writing based on the fact that people are claiming histories that don't actually exist, and they believe it. You don't think that still happens today? Rastafarians. Haile Selassie said, yes, I'm from the bloodline of Menelik I, which puts me as part of the Solomonic dynasty. And people believe it, knowing good and damn well this man ain't got no proof whatsoever that he is from the Solomonic dynasty. There is zero proof that Sheba, that Queen Candace, Medica, went up to Judea, met Solomon, got pregnant, had a baby, named him Menelik I. And they converted over to Judaism. Menelik I went to see his father, came back with the Ark of the Covenant, and established the Solomonic dynasty in Ethiopia. There is zero proof of that. As a matter of fact, the Axiom Empire, the DMT, the Demit Empire, the Sabians, All of those people remain polytheistic as hell until 330 CE. There is no evidence of a Solomonic dynasty ever existing in Egypt. Yet Haile Selassie claimed it, and now you've got Rastafari all over the place. So we know people will just believe and accept these things, and because of historians, and even these historians will believe and accept the thing. So why not the same thing? Well, if we take the same scrutiny to these Roman historians that Christians like to run out, we'll find the same evidence, the same lack of evidence is there. Tacitus has zero proof of any early first century Jesus. Josephus doesn't talk about it. There's no proof from Suetonius, no proof from Pliny. There was not one historian during that time frame of Jesus that wrote about Jesus. Could you imagine if the only information we had about Abraham Lincoln was written by people who wrote about him almost 100 years later? If the only information we had about Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, was by people who was writing about him now. Nobody else wrote about it, but they wait till now. How accepting would you be of the history of Malcolm X if the first person to write about him wrote it now? Would you think it's true? And there's no video. Let's say, we living in that time, there was no video, none of that. No video, no pictures, none of that. How accurate could the person be? If you don't have any testimony, anything from the people at the time frame, how accurate can it be? But isn't that not what we see with the Bible as well? Nobody wrote shit while Jesus was walking around. As Tim might say, when Jesus was walking around, when he had some walk around money in the mouth of that fish, nobody wrote that down. How not? You got this dude walking on water, healing sick people, feeding everybody with a 2-piece fish meal, got fish coming up with gold in their mouth, and no historian writes about it. No government official writes about it. Something wrong with that. Exactly. If Malcolm X's biography was written today, I would have to question the hell about it. Mm-hmm. You'd have to question it. You should question it. You should question the hell out of it. And the thing about it, as Sean said, even if the person actually existed, the stories would be exaggerated by time. And so it would be filled with lies. So these so-called historians with their political angles, because you got to think about it, Tacitus and Pliny, they were Roman governors. And it's not that a Roman governor can't be a historian, but they were Roman governors. So there's going to be a slant in the history, right? There's going to be a slant. All right, see, there was a lot of propaganda written about Malcolm X back then. So, but if today it was being written, it'd be so hypocritical. Removal of the Gospel of Thomas and the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, who the Romans turned into a prostitute, only for the Catholic Church to correct that a few years later. And I want you to think about that. Now, I wouldn't use that term remove. Uh, the Gospel of Thomas, Gospel of Mary Magdalene was never canonized. So the first canon of the Bible, that modern day Bible, it didn't include the books. They just were left out. I would say the left out books. But yes, Mary Magdalene became the prostitute because they said there was some demons that Jesus supposedly exorcised out of her. And there was another woman who was a prostitute that they talked about. So she was the prostitute, but then the church cleaned it up and then said she's not the prostitute. I thought these popes in this church are supposed to be had a divineness of God, yet these stories change. Say, thought you meant supernatural stuff. There's supernatural stuff too. If you can't get the basic things, if you can't prove the basic existence of a person, then certainly the supernatural leaves a lot to be desired. It's like it just leaves a lot. Let's see, it's almost like finding original ancient texts from the time of that person, of the person, don't survive so well. From the time of the person don't survive so well. Good thing that's never happened with any other ancient figure. I'm not quite sure I'm understanding you correctly because of the way that first sentence is written. It's almost like finding original ancient text from the time, okay, of the person, got it, don't survive so well. If you're saying that the ancient text from the time of a person doesn't survive as well, and so we have to trust in people who are writing decades and years later, is that, and that doesn't happen with other ancient figures? I mean, that happens with multiple ancient figures, but at least there are writings from the time frame of some ancient figures. One of the beauties of stone is that we have the stones that are written during the time frame of some individuals of things happening, especially the findings that, Nineveh and all that. But I think you're being, I don't think you're being, I see the smiley laughy face. So I don't think you mean that like, oh yeah, Jesus is real. Don't take my comments in that form, because that's not what I'm thinking, right? But it's like we can find some ancient texts, documents, stone carvings, pottery that was done, coins, right? Like we got coins that were minted during the time frame of Alexander the Greek, coins minted during the time frame of Caesar, and so on and so forth. You got pottery. If Jesus was as big as he was, we should have something. We should have something. Oh, you say you think he's being? I think so as well. What up, Derek? What did Dwayne say this? And you know the thing about it, Court, he says, Serapis the Greek. Serapis the Greek oppressor that oppressed the Maccabees. But you know what I can at least appreciate with the Greeks in their creation of Serapis? They told you that this was a combination of multiple gods. They were like, yeah, we combining multiple gods and we're gonna make them into one, because that, your God and our God, they got some similarities, And so what we're gonna do is merge them together, give them a new name, and then we both can worship this God. And then I'm gonna make my soldier marry your daughter, and then they're gonna have a child, and they're gonna grow up, in the family. But at least They honest about they shit. They know that Serapis is made up. Because what is Serapis is Apophis, and I forgot the other god that's made part this combined combination of. And yeah, they were telling the Jewish people, y'all gonna worship Serapis. Because to them, all these guys existed. So why not, if they got similarities, just like Tahuti and Hermes, they said, you know what? We're gonna make Thoth. We're gonna merge those two gods. You Egyptians don't have no problems with Thoth. To be honest, Coach, I can understand most things wasn't written in complete context due to what society will accept. So it would take time for certain things to be revealed. What do you mean by that? I mean, I do understand that, like, if you want to create a religion, you got to give it some time to develop and grow. And that's what we see with Christianity, that they did Josephus and Philo, they did their initial writings and sent their little agent out there posing as Paul, and they developed this thing, knowing that it was going to take time to grow and develop, and then start writing their gospels afterwards to tell the story. And I get that when you're creating something. But if Jesus is walking around doing these miracles, you'd think somebody would have been writing it down, other than waiting decades, almost a century later. And that's the thing about it. Think about it. If somebody was going around today and they was able to produce miracles, do you think it would take 50 years for a movement to come up? John Smith got that shit done like that. Ow, I jammed my finger yesterday and I tried to snap my finger. That hurt. John Smith got that shit done like that. I want you to think about that. How long did it take John Smith to create Mormonism? I mean, this joker told a wild story. Yo, I was out in the woods and I was digging, and this angel came and he told me where I could find these golden plates, and the golden plates had a New Testament on. I found the golden plate and they translated it to me. And then I came back and I'm telling y'all, and they were like, well, where the golden plates at? Oh, I can't tell y'all where they at, but you just got to trust me. Another dude said, yeah, I seen it. And he said, oh, another dude said it too, so that must be true. So yeah, I got these golden plates. Jesus came over here and talked to the Native Americans, and those original Native Americans, not the other ones, not the dark skinned ones, but the real ones, the light skinned Native Americans. They came over here, talked to them Jesus, and we need to go on over here and set up camp. We went and set up camp. Then they said, no, we got to go further. And we're going into Utah. And we set up camp. He got that shit done quick. Built a whole religion based on seeing some golden plates that ain't nobody ever verified that he's seen them golden plates, and ain't nobody ever seen them damn golden plates. And now you got a whole state in America, and they strong. Them LDS got plenty of money. Got colleges and hospitals and all kind of stuff. Oh, I see what you're saying. Gotcha. But then it becomes corrupt when it's being revealed. What were some of the holiest artifacts that the Vatican have stored, and why wasn't the Pope not placed with the other popes? As far as some of the holiest of holies that they got stored, they ain't got nothing holy that's stored. They lay claim to some things and say, oh, we got the sword of destiny and all these other things. They just make claims. It's just like when you go there, because Helena, 300 years later, is saying that this According to the locals, this is where Jesus died and builds a church on top of it. People just accept it. They can make claims. They make claims. Matter of fact, I did a whole live last week on the fake artifacts. And as far as the Pope not being with the other popes, I'm not sure what you're talking about on that. But Sean, Joseph Smith did this without the internet, when there was no cars, no highway. There wasn't even a highway system. And Joseph Smith built the Mormons. You don't need all that stuff. You don't need all that. With the internet, yeah, we can do it a hell of a lot faster. With the internet, look at Morgul with Hyperionism. Joking, I built him a whole kind of esoteric Christian religion on the quick, and he ain't got to go nowhere. He's doing it all from whatever room he shoots his videos in. That's right. The mysteries and the mystique is what creates their power, and these people eat it up. But I believe that the overwhelming majority of the Roman historians were doing one of two things: perpetuating false information for political reasoning and political gain, or they just accepted whatever the people who believed in something said. No fact checking. And if other historians had said it, then yeah, it must be right. And we still do that to a certain extent today. If this historian who was back, if Pliny said this, then yeah, we just accept it. If Tacitus said this, then we just accept it. Instead of scrutinizing, well, where did they actually get their information from? Does the information ever happen to come from people who was there? Right. It took a couple of years then. Now it takes a couple of hours. LDS had 40 wives. I settled for 20. I don't know. I'd be good with 3. Give me 3. 20 is a little much. Yeah, 3. I'm maxed out. I'm maxed out at 3. Oh, I haven't heard anything about the Pope not being buried with the other former popes. I mean, I have to look at it, and I look at things with an open mindset. Like maybe it's filled up, just like the pictures of the popes. This will be they only got one space left for the new pope, so they're just gonna start a whole another room, another rotunda with putting pictures of the pope up after this one died. Are you aware of any contemporary version of the Ptolemy family? Is there a family line that we recognize under a different name? I think that would be an interesting corollary conversation. That would be. I have to research that though. Right. So we have 0 eyewitnesses to the Jesus story. None. Even none of the writers of the Bible, none of the Gospels, nothing is an eyewitness to the story. Yet these historians accept it. They accept it. The people who believe in this book accept it. We know that Luke is not an eyewitness because Luke verifies and says that he's not an eyewitness. So that precludes Luke, Acts. John was written afterwards. We know that's not by an eyewitness. It was written after Luke. All of the letters attributed to Paul, not an eyewitness. We know it. He says it. But the Mark and Matthew are the ones that people really like to try to claim were eyewitnesses. Yet most scholars and everybody else understand that if they were, the closest that they could have been to an eyewitness would be a student of Peter. But we have nothing from Peter. Zero, zilch. I mean, that's like, can't remember the order of how it goes. I think it goes, does it go Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, or does it go Plato, Socrates, Aristotle? I think Aristotle's the last one. I don't remember the order, right? But to have writings from writings from each one of them helps you validate the line of information. Now, I think the first one we don't have any writings of, so I think that's why I think Socrates is the first one, because I don't think we have writings from Socrates. So we got Plato and Aristotle. Whoever the first one is, we don't have writings from. But they're students of a student of a student. You kind of can get they're writing at a time frame with each other, you know. So you can validate. You can say, okay, if Aristotle is a student of Plato, you know, the things he's writing, the things he learned, he probably learned them from the man because he was living at the time frame and wrote about it. We got nothing for Jesus. I'm sorry, I had to do this one. So Patel said Jesus is real. Tim said, Patel, do you have receipts? Patel said, can't see oxygen, but need it. You can't see Allah. So that makes Allah real. You can't see Brahman. That makes Brahman real. According to the Hindus, you need Brahman. According to the Muslims, you need Allah. So by your definition, that makes them just as real as your oxygen that you need and your Jesus. But yet you're an atheist towards Brahma and an atheist towards Allah. But we can measure oxygen. We can, and I know you probably meant the air. We can feel the air. Okay, hold on. Let's see. It might be a good argument. No internet, no printing press, just walking around speaking to people. Seems that would take some time to catch on. Yet they were known to Josephus, who would have grown up hearing about followers of Jesus and be warned about his message by his rabbis. It's easy to doubt the spiritual part, but you have to try hard to believe that they were just hanging around for a few decades before they got started spreading his message. So you're right that there's no printing press and no things of that nature. But if the entire thing was created by Josephus and Philo on the behest of the Vespasians, that too would explain why Josephus didn't say anything about people who believed in this Jesus character until around 80, until around 80 CE. That it was all just made up. And why wasn't the historians who were grown-ass men when Josephus, because Josephus was born in 34 CE, yet there were adult historians in Judea and in Rome at that time frame, and none of them wrote about Jesus. If Pontius Pilate crucified a man and an earthquake happened and the grave and the tomb was empty and all of that, Pilate never wrote about it, didn't report that back to Rome. The other governors in Syria and all that area never wrote about him and reported back to Rome that these things were happening. These miracles are happening. and they didn't report it back to Rome. And best you believe, information traveled very quickly on the Roman roads. So it didn't happen. Nobody else wrote about it. No other historian. I ain't buying it. Christianity didn't exist until the Vespasian and them created it. Not until it was created. Christianity wasn't created until around 70 after 70 AD or CE. That's when Christianity was created. Prior to that, there was no Christianity. Oh my gosh. I don't know what just happened. I'm sure y'all heard my wife. Now, Constantine didn't create Christianity. Constantine just organized Christianity under the orthodoxy that would become the Roman Catholic Church. Constantine's goal was to control Christianity. What's the Constantine Creed? I know the Nicene Creed, but I've never heard of the Constantine Creed. Okay, you agree? But yes. And you got to understand, unlike how today historians have more leeway to tell the truth, not that they have full leeway to tell the truth, just more leeway to tell the truth. At the time of the Romans, at the time of this so-called Jesus, these historians didn't have free reign to just write shit. If the government didn't like what they was writing, that person could die. They could kill you and not have to deal with anything else. Why do you think this? The earliest Christians were Jews. Because the Bible says so? Because I'm of a mindset that the first Christians were not Jews, but Gentiles. People in and around Judea. But I do think the opportunity, let me rephrase that. Let me not say that. I think the Roman government was trying to convert Jews and Gentiles in that region at the same time. I don't think the first were any one particular group, but at the same time. Do I need to watch every one of your videos to get a full liberation from Christianity, or can I watch a good amount and pull from other sources? It's not a silly question, but yeah, you need to watch all my videos, all 3,000 of them. No, dude. Nope. Just, watch a few, some, and pull for information and go do the research, and you will start to free yourself. It's freeing your emotions is going to be the hardest thing. Dwele? I hope I'm saying your name right. Is it Dwele? Don't get hung up on that. Don't get hung up on that. The name, if you actually translated the Yahshua name in English, it would be um, Joshua, right? It wouldn't be Jesus at all. What you're looking at is from Yeshua, there is no way to translate that into Greek, Koine Greek. So they transliterated it, which means we're going to give it a new name, but we're going to give it a name that in our language that has the same meaning as it does in their language, which flips it to um, Ius. And then in Latin, from that Koine Greek, it was translated into Latin to Isus. And then when the J did come around, it was retranslated into Jesus, transliteration into Jesus. So it's really just a transliteration, right? It should be Joshua. They should be screaming for the name of Joshua. So I get what you're saying, but that one doesn't make for a good argument. So I wouldn't use that one. That's why you hardly ever hear me using that um, as a in part of my deconstruction process. Okay, so Dwelle, I did say it right. I can say some stuff right every now and then, every now and then. Why do you believe in Yahushua? Yahuwah. Why do you believe in Yahuwah or Yahshua? You did great. Josephus wrote about a lot of people and it is written about the foreign antiquities of the Jews as a collection of historical information. Given how little he mentioned anything related to Jesus, it will be it was still growing and a minor event in the revelation of everything that happened in the time frame prior to history. So he wouldn't devote a wholesale separate record as to it as soon as he knew about it. The thing about it that Josephus doesn't really write about people believing in a Jesus character at all. He talks about four different Yeshuas, and as far as the people in the movement, he barely mentions it. But what I'm saying is that he barely mentions it because he's creating it. But if the movement was real, he would have given a lot more attention to it. He would have given a hell of a lot more attention to it because um, he was Jewish. He was an important person in Judaism, especially in the region of Galilee. He led their armies against the Romans. So he was very dedicated to the Messianic Jewish story. So Josephus would have seen Christians as an enemy to his religion because he never gave up Judaism. So he would have wrote about them, but he would have did what many people, when they don't like something that threatens who they are, they drag it through the mud. Pretty much everything we know about the Valentinians and the Marcions is based on Christian writers dragging it through the mud. But he never drugged Christianity that way because he made it up himself. Let's see. Y'all just having all kind of your own comes. So this is going to be a shameless plug. As I was having a conversation with someone earlier today, y'all like to get into y'all own conversations over there in the comments. And a lot of y'all have gotten to know each other and become, kind of an online family, the YouTubers and the Facebookers. Have y'all have grown together. And some of y'all have crossed over because I post people's comments. This is why all of you should definitely make plans to be here in San Antonio the first weekend of November when we have our meet and greet, our get along, our get together. So y'all can put faces to the names. Shake each other's hand, give each other a hug, get to know each other. Continue to build your relationships that you're building right now online. You'll be able to build those relationships in person. Because there's nothing like being in front of somebody that you've been talking to online for all this time and you finally get a chance to meet them. So I expect to see all of you guys November the 1st here in San Antonio. No, the first weekend in November in San Antonio. Matter of fact, what's that calendar time frame? Oh, that would be the weekend of November the 1st. Friday, Halloween. Oh, I just realized that's the Halloween time frame. Halloween, 31st, the 1st and the 2nd. I expect to see you guys here. Yes. Shameless plug over. Mm-hmm. Josephus wasn't kind to other religions, but he would have saw Christianity as a major threat to his religion. Now, once he became Hellenized with the Romans, then of course he was doing Romans' bidding. And Vespasian's goal was to create a punk version of Judaism. Exactly. Can't wait. Dwayne's gonna fly all the way in from North Carolina. Yeah, and we know that Christians doctored up that Testimonius Flavianus. $20 away, man. 20 minutes away. Okay, I got to read this because I saw Bruce Lee in there, so I got to read this. And Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So two of my people I really like. I got to read this one. It's the deception, hypothetical situation, and by the end you'll know who I'm talking about. Say your choice between two karate instructors, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Steven Seagal. Kareem actually studied under Bruce Lee, and Steven only read books about Bruce Lee. Oh, by the way, before he was Steve, he was Kevin. And when he was Kevin, he badmouthed Bruce Lee's fighting style. Yet Steven Seagal became monetized, I think is what you mean. Monetized through deception by changing his name. So we talk about Paul. Paul is Steven Seagal. And Kareem would be one of the so-called disciples. Yet the overwhelming majority of the Bible is the New Testament is the writings of Steven Seagal. You ain't gonna like my response to this, Jimmy, but I'm gonna go ahead. Which group of people introduced Christianity to Americas? Europeans. And if Jesus is the Messiah, then why is racism associated with certain denominations of the Christian faith. Well, you got to remember, Jesus is somewhat not, you can't use the term racist because they didn't have race the same way we do, but he's ethnocentric. Like when he called that Canaanite woman a dog and told her she wasn't deserving of the food of the Israelite children. So he's ethnocentric. He don't like people if you ain't from his group. He got problems with you. He thinks that they're beneath him. When seemingly the gospel passage and description of being Jesus like is totally opposite, but it's not. Jesus might have, they might have in that book that, but it is Paul that says, love your neighbor as you love yourself, right? Isn't that in the writings of Paul? I don't think that's in the writings of Jesus. I think that's in the Paulinian letters, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. If you were to characterize or label a Christian terrorist organization, what is their an affiliation? Shit, all of them are terrorist organizations. Under almost every denomination of Christianity have terrorism been a part of their ethos. Whether they're flooding people out of their towns or showing up in white hoods. They're all part of it. But if you really look at the character of Jesus, he ain't all that he's cracked up to be. And I know this don't sound right to what we've been taught, but Jesus believed in the separation of the people based on your ethnicity. It ain't much different from the Anglicans the English being separated from the Irish, and for the Europeans separating himself from the African and everybody else. He never asked where the man was who committed the adultery. He only was concerned about the woman. Why didn't he ask, why aren't you trying to punish the man at the same time? Equal rights, for equal fight. No. He never said anything about ending slavery. Jesus ain't all that great. You know what, Wrath? There's going to be one aspect of when we're together, I'm going to bring enough cigars for whoever's there. I'm going to make sure you get you a La Angelina. Just reading the Bible front to back, and I'll be able to see the contradictions and what's wrong with it. No. This is why I do my videos. It's hard to read it front to back, and like you're reading, unless you can do things where, unless your mind works in a degree where you say, okay, I read this story. So it's easy to do it in like Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 because they're right there together. A lot of the contradictions are pages apart, books apart, chapters apart, sometimes Old Testament, New Testament apart. So unless you can recognize certain things and then certain things stick out to you, it's going to be hard. It's hard to do it that way. Thankfully, with the internet, though, it's easier. You can just, Google contradictions in the Bible. It's all right, Randall. I'll be trying to decipher what people say. If the Romans were looking for someone to perpetuate a new made-up religion to serve their purpose, then Josephus would have been flogged for doing such a terrible job. I think it was a fluid thing. They started out with, what we commonly know as the writings of Paul, based on, like, really go check out the video, the live we did on Monday about Paul. But utilizing an agent of a person that's going around teaching this more softer, just believe and give unto Caesar, render unto Caesar what is Caesar, obey the laws. The government that's put over you is the government that God wants for you, all this bullshit. But then they continue to develop the story. Because it took, even after he died, it took 300 years, 300 years to really develop the Christian story. Yeah, and nobody today would accept these stories because we don't go for that bullshit. But you gotta think back then, people believed in amulets and they believed in curses. If you watch the video did today about the Nazarene inscription, which is that video is called "Did Caesar Talk About the Empty Tomb?" People used to put curses on tombstones so that people wouldn't grave rob. So they believed in magic a whole hell of a lot more back then. They still thought that there were gods that moved the sun and the moon and all this stuff. So they were more susceptible to it. If you can go back in time, you can tell these stories and people will believe you. Just like people today believe that God healed them in the hospital, and people believe it, even though they had a doctor and they had surgery and they had medicine. These people still believe that some God came in and healed them. Yeah. That used to be one that many people don't like. Do you think that I came to give you peace on earth? No, I tell you, not at all, but rather division, to pit fathers against son and mothers against daughters. Exactly. He ain't this little nice guy. And that's the saddest part. Most popular person on the planet, and no proof of his existence. This is how important violence is in spreading a religion. That violence that was used to spread this religion has captivated the minds of so many people. I mean, we don't. They make all these supernatural claims, and people just believe it. Yeah, and the Romans didn't really embrace it. You had Roman citizens, but the Roman government didn't. Christianity didn't embrace until it was forced on them by Theodosius in around 381. Oh, that's not what I meant to click on. Where'd it go? Was the Adam and Eve story true because it doesn't add up? How are we created in our mother's womb? The Adam and Eve story is not true at all. It's a made up story in order to create a lineage for Hebrew people, but it's not a true story at all. People existed on the planet long before Adam and Eve were ever created. Exactly. And people believe in Adam and Eve because it was beaten into them. Oh, you saying that he believes because it's bleeding? Yeah. Did he ever answer that question when I asked him why does he believe in Yahuwah? I didn't see an answer go by. So, you should formulate a list of obvious contradictions, and they should be in the intro of your live sessions. That's an idea. That's an idea. Well, no. Adam, so Sumerian is not a Semitic language, but Akkadian was a Semitic language. In the Semitic and the Akkadian language, you had Adapa, and Adapa becomes Adam. And Adapa was the first man that was fit to be a slave to the Anunnaki. And really, he was the first man that was fit to be the house slave to the Anunnaki, to be more specific. So even though in the Hebrew they would say, oh, it means earth or man, or, well, dirt or man, it comes from Adapa, which was in their Anunnaki story, that first slave man that could run all the other slaves and run and take care of the gods in the house. Yeah, and you're right. Especially the Purple Power Rangers like to use the name Yahuwah because they are trying to further create separation from the Christians and the Jews. But they just lying to themselves at such a high level. I never believe in Adam and Eve. I always believe in evolution. Yeah, I give more credibility to evolution than I would Adam and Eve. Hell, I would give more credibility to the Anunnaki version, the Mayans and Aztec versions, the versions in Ifa, before I would give it to the Jewish version, the Hebrew version. Hell, at least in the Mayan version, we come at least there's some corn mixed in there. You know what I'm saying? That's why we all make corny jokes. But the we came from dirt is stupid. But this is and that is my favorite answer. We don't know. Now, honestly, I think we do come from some hominid. Now, did the Anunnaki change and infuse some bloodline of the Anunnaki into the hominid to create a mutated version that ends up being us? That's more plausible than the God from dirt story and Eve from a rib story. Because we can see in our DNA that some shit look fused together, look artificial. But that doesn't necessarily mean the Anunnaki story is true. Maybe some previous civilization was fucking around with a hominid. We don't know. Doing scientific experiments the same way that we do scientific experiments with animals. But I would certainly believe that. Right. And instead of dirt, I'm definitely choosing water. I'm definitely choosing water. And we can see the difference between from Neanderthals to Homo sapiens. We can see the breeding out. What up, Norman? I ain't seen you in a minute. But I'd rather go with that this is the zoo theory. That this is just a big ass zoo. Aliens looking at us like, look at the little humans down there. Look at them. Look at them. Just like we go to the zoo and look at monkeys. Look at giraffes. Look at what they're doing there. Hmm. Let me just put what Isaac just threw down real quick. I'm gonna let y'all read that yourselves while I check something. I'm gonna let y'all read that. God dang, it's still 92 degrees outside. It's wondering why I'm hot. Got that window open. Whew. Ain't that something? That ain't the version of Jesus they like to tell you about. Oh, it's out of context. That's what they gonna tell you, Isaac, out of that one. They gonna tell you that you taking that out of context. Jesus would never do that. What do you think about Trump wanting to bring peace to the bullshit? America don't function on peace. Just put it in your phone, Jimmy. You got it. Luke 19:27, Jimmy. Luke 19:27. You see it, Jimmy? Jimmy Jam. Look, I'm vote for whoever you want to vote for. I will call out the stupidity of any president. I don't care what party they're from. But this man just gives you too much ammunition, you know? Just come on, man. It's an embarrassment. It's just an embarrassment. Even though last night I did think through a process that he can get that jet without getting in trouble for it. Oh yeah, you can't bring peace to the Middle East. Who would do that? Who would do that? It makes no sense. Can't make no money off peace. At least that's what they think. You literally could make money off peace. What's funny to me though about is the contradictions of the statement. Like he picked on Joe Biden for falling asleep all the time, and then he fell asleep at the meeting yesterday. I was just like, that's why you can't don't be talking trash. You know what I'm saying? Because it come back and bite you in the ass. Hold on, what did he say? This is the one time I'm gonna put James in. How do you feel he was in the army and you was a president? Check in your check in itself domestic and tourist terrorist maybe. So how you feel about that? Because I want to know how you feel because you were in. I was in the Marine Corps first of all, in the army. So how do you feel? So you want to know how I feel about, but I can't even understand what you're asking in the first one. How do you feel? I think you talk about me. He was in the army and you was president. Check in itself domestic. I wanted to answer this, but I can't grasp what the hell you talking about. If I was still in the, if you're asking me if I was still in the Marine Corps and he was the president, I would get out. Because even when I was in, if I didn't like, I would disobey an order in a heartbeat. Because in the military, you promise to defend the Constitution versus enemy against enemies, foreign and domestic. So a lot of the shit, some of the things that he said, and there were things that were said when I was under Clinton. There was things that there were orders that was given under Clinton and orders given under Bush. I refused to follow because they weren't lawful orders and they went against the Constitution. So I ain't the one that's just gonna follow just because you're the president. But I'm not exactly sure what you're actually asking. I'm a little confused. Actually, I'm a whole lot of confused. If somebody else understands this, please let me know. But if I was an officer in the military right now, I would resign my commission because I ain't following shit that motherfucker tell me to do. Especially if he wanted me to attack Burkina Faso, there ain't no way. Mm-mm. Yeah, I heard about people doing that, leaving George Bush up there, leaving Bush's picture up there, um, as long as they could. They push, they're gonna push some envelopes. People gonna have their own personal bullshit. Right, I see no downside of peace in the Middle East, regardless of who gets it done. But it's not going to be an easy nut to crack. Not until you get rid of religion. As long as there's Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, you're not going to ever have peace in the Middle East. Not to a degree where it's actually peaceful. The Israelites believe that they're supposed to control that entire region, well, not the entire region, but regions all the way into Iraq. There will never be peace because they believe that they are supposed to inherit all the land to the Euphrates River. That means taking that land from Iraq. So if they are able to take Gaza, they will then next try to take portions of Iraq. So there will never be peace. It will be great, but it won't be. Now, I never heard that 38% of the people didn't vote. That's interesting. That would be, I know the majority of the population don't vote at all. If you really look at the numbers, the majority of the population don't vote. Why can't people see religion is just here to control us? Because they're afraid of going to hell. And then you got to think, man, it's hard to break free from something that your parents and your surrounding culture has drilled into your head since you were born. Right? They drilled it into your head. It's hard to let that go. And most people, to be honest, most people can't think that deep. They can't. Some strange reason. They should be able to, but most people can't think that deep. Like, you literally have to be a person that thinks freely of emotions to get away from this religion, or have something traumatic that pushes you away from this religion. And usually when you have something traumatic that pushes you away from this religion, you wind up gravitating to another religion. Until you can think freely and think critically, people are going to stay stuck. As long as there's any emotion involved, they're gonna stay stuck in one religion or another. Wait a minute, what? I feel the main thing that kept me fear of hell kept me in the fear of hell is marijuana. What? What? See, I like was he never believed but his parents and had me pray over many times. Yep. I had to do all the prayers and stuff. I used to do all the prayers for my family until I broke, and then I just like I can't do this no more. And that freedom for me came at 12. But I chose to go back because I wanted it to be true until I was in my late 20s, early 30s. Then I was like, let's fuck this. But I went through 2 decades, about almost 2 decades, wanting it to be true, doing my damnedest to prove it to be true. If they would have had YouTube, well, they did. YouTube did come up, but that came up right after I had deconstructed. But if they had this back then, I'd have been one of those people. If I was 21, 22 right now, the way that I was, I've been on here I'd be one of these people in the comments. You don't know what you're talking about. No, I never did it that way. I would be arguing the point. This is going to sound cruel, Will. I want to believe to get my family back, but I just can't. If somebody can't be your family because of a religious difference, are they really good family? Because family ain't got shit to do with blood. Family is a relationship that you choose every day, just like love, because love is a choice, it's a daily choice. You have to choose to love someone every day. If you really think about your whole family, there are some people in your family you do not choose to love them. Now you just say that's my uncle, that's my aunt, that's my cousin, that's my brother, my sister, and you may feel some honorable devotion to them, but you don't really love them. You really don't. If you really think about it, and it's hard to admit, you really don't love that person, right? I can admit that there are people in my family. Back in the day, I did not love them, but I had an honorable commitment to them because they were blood related. There are people in my family right now. I don't know these motherfuckers. I care about them because they're part of my family, my bloodline, but I don't know them. So there's no choice. I'm not making an effort, a choice of loving them. You understand what I'm saying? You know? So love and family is a choice. And if you don't choose to be my family, regardless of of what we disagree about, you ain't family. You just not family. It sounds mean, but that's just the truth of it. I'm talking about my boy. I'm just talking. Mm. Now, whew. So I have coaching sessions at $50 an hour. Will I got coaching sessions? If you just trying to get an ex back who's a member of Philip of Pam, that's what Philip A. Mike Mitchell, a Pam. If you trying to get her back, is it really trying to get her back, or is the kids, or is that poom poom just that good? Come on, man, be honest. But if she don't want to be with you because of religion, and I can understand that when it comes to a romantic relationship, I get that. But mm, mm-mm. No, you don't, Randall. You don't love all your family. You got some family members you don't even know. You don't know them. My family got a whole bunch of little babies. I love them because they babies, you know what I'm saying? They fun, you play with them, I love them. But I don't know them. I don't know them kids. And my what do you call it? So Angelina's my immediate family, my extended family. It's like 90 of them motherfuckers. It's too many of them. You don't love all them people. There you go. Family is just friends who refuse to give up on each other. There it is. And if somebody gives up on you because of religious bullshit, they ain't family. But yeah, you just find a happy medium if you can. If you're with somebody who's of a different religion or you walked away from the religion, if you can't find a happy medium, if you can't say, okay, I know we disagree on this, but this, and this gives us so much joy and happiness and love. Why can't we just put that this is for you and it's not for me? I mean, I remember going through a process where I was like, look, here's the thing. Isn't according to the Bible that you can't save me and I can't really save you? I know the Bible. Well, no, I said uh, at one point, I said there's two things that I said. I was like, does not the Bible, and this was during counseling with a Christian minister, and I said, but doesn't the Bible say that if the woman believes but the man does not, then the man is saved by the woman? And if the man believes and the woman does not, then the woman is saved by the man. So I don't have to believe for us to be together. And another one that I used, I was like, doesn't the Bible say that nobody in heaven is married? So this is only an earthly thing of us being together. So why can't we just enjoy it? You know what I mean? You ain't even gonna know me in heaven. So, but that one just hurt more when I said that. That one just, but you know, at the end of the day, people live and die by that. Have you heard of quiverful? No. Because I don't believe in Jesus, I must be into something satanic to her. Yeah, that's how they're going to look at it. Even though this person is supposed to know you, know who you are, the kind and gentle man that you are, but yet they will ignore it. That religion got them hooked like that. But to me, it's not worth it. If somebody's so caught up in a religion, that's why I got to a point where I just was like, you know what? A deal breaker for me is if you believe in these religions, it's a deal breaker. Um, I used to have when I would meet a woman, I'd be like, so what's your name? Oh, your name's Charlotte. Hey Charlotte, how you doing? So why don't you tell me about yourself, Charlotte? Oh well, I work at no. Tell me about yourself. Don't be telling me what you do. Who are you as a person? So let me oh, you really can't tell me. Let me ask you, do you believe in Jesus? Oh, you do. Oh, you know what? We could just be friends. Cause this ain't gonna work. Right off the bat. Get you right out the door. Ain't got time for no bullshit. Oh, you don't believe in Jesus? Oh, cool. Oh, what? Oh, you said you believe in Allah? No, that ain't gonna work. You gotta go. We could just be friends. I shut about a Honda. Exactly, Tim. Mm. I would tell them in a heartbeat, you got to keep it moving. I don't, and I would even now when I'm even with people who are, I can't get even become friends with people who are so religious that they gotta dump that shit all the time. Like my friend Brandon is Christian, but if I couldn't have a conversation, if every conversation with Brandon was Jesus, 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 he wouldn't be my friend. Yeah, and if you got that kind of family, they ain't your family. I go find my family elsewhere. That's why we all need to come. And when we meet in San Antonio, that first weekend in November, Halloween weekend, that's why we all need to come to San Antonio so that we can meet and form our new families. Hold on, that's not my Sydney, is it? Is that my Sydney? Is that my oldest daughter? Because not many Sydney spell their name the way this Sydney is spelling her name. You trying to sneak on the page, little girl? I know that's probably not my, that's not my daughter. Hold on, Jimmy. I got to go back and see what your question was. Shit. If you have to estimate the percentage or a percentile regarding all the people, all of the world's religious communities, how many people can think freely and are deflecting from religion altogether? 1%. 1%. But the number is growing. I will say that the number is growing. More and more people are starting to break free, but not from free thinking, but from the fact that other people have broken free and now they feel safe to do so themselves. They people are teaching them. They're not thinking freely for themselves. They are learning it from other people. Like they listen to videos like mine and they are learning it that way. No, I'm gonna shoot you. Oh, Queerful is a journalist movement that is certain Christian circles that emphasizes having large families, often with a belief that children are a blessing from God and that families should not limit their fertility through contraception or other forms of birth control. Uh, the movement's proponents believe that having numbers of children is a way to fulfill their biblical duty and to raise future generations of believers who will influence in political and I guess that's supposed to be cultural something. Yeah, I didn't know that was what that meant, but I see organizations like that. Um, well, now I know what they're called. That's kind of like the Project 25, 2025 people. They believe that they should continue to grow children so that they can take over the political and then grow them into political pundits so that they can take over the government and turn America into a Christian society. Yeah, it also seems like one of the things that falls under Mormonism as well and Islam. Why are black women so susceptible to this religion? Because they learned it from their grandma and their mama. And because, now, honestly, though, it's not just black women, it's women, period. And no disrespect to any of the women that's on here, but if you gave me 10 women, 9 of them are going to be emotionally based. And religion plays hard towards emotions. So you're going to have women more susceptible to religion than men. This is why every religion is built on the backs of women. But black women are more, so not just black women, but anybody who's been oppressed, any group that's been oppressed or any group that's impoverished are going to have a stronger emotional attachment to religion because it promises them the hope of freedom, the hope of relief. They can find some happiness in their sadness, in their poverty-stricken situation or their oppressed situation. So it's the emotions. Oh yeah, it's dropping faster and faster. Yeah, but this is why I agree with what Wrath is saying. If women, the more women walk away from the religion dies. Because the other part of that is, as is said, and it's still true, a child's first teacher is his mother. So a child's first love is generally their mother. So the first person a child trusts is generally their mother. So if the mother's not teaching Christianity, the child won't fall into it or any religion. And the beauty of what Dwayne is saying is that the younger generation, both men and women, are not falling into this religion at all. Like I am proud to say that none of my daughters are Jesus freaks. And none of them. We just, because me and Angelina are a blended family, we just give the children numbers based on who's born first. So I will gladly say that 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the boy is 5, but all 5 of them, none of them are like religious people at all. And that is against the backdrop of people who try to force them into being religious. What? My kids are half white. What the fuck? Okay, I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, why am I paying attention? What did you say? Don't tell women to not believe. Repressed poom poom is the best poom. No, it's not. Mm-mm. Let me give you a little TMI, Isaac. I need liberated poom poom. I don't want no repressed poom poom. Now I know you might mean repressed, like it's all pent up, but that Christian poom poom be boring. I need some liberated poom poom. My poom poom gotta be liberated. Freaky dicky. Give me no Jesus poom poom. Whereas gotta do missionary, and we might be able to do a little side this, a little, that's it. That's all we know. Yeah. Oh, congratulations. Your daughter just told you they were done. Congratulations. Yeah. Look, them Gen Zers and millennials, they are walking away from this religion like nobody's business. They are the out of although people of the although Gen Xers are moving out at a very good rate, we are not moving out as fast as the Gen Z and millennials. They getting the hell home. What? My ex did get better once she went. Watching her repent after. Man, if a woman was repenting after we done did the shaka like a boom boom, I got a problem. I can't deal with that. Okay, we're in the same mind. Yeah, I'd be liberated. We giving that boring shit. Mm-mm. I need that. I gotta have that street level. All right, all right. Ah, oh, y'all stupid. Mm-mm-mm. So the cigar gone. It's burning shit up my fingers. So I appreciate you guys. Look, I'm going to tomorrow. I'm going to be investigating this one hotel to see if we can have the seminar there. If things work out the way I was told about this one hotel, it's going to be good. It's going to make it a lot easier. It's going to be a great setup. Um, but we're definitely going to have this meet and greet on Halloween weekend. Since it's Halloween weekend, I know somebody whose name we're not going to mention right now is going to want to have a costume party or some type of costume gathering party, something. So we'll figure out how to facilitate that based on the number of people who are coming. But I look forward to meeting you guys Halloween weekend here in San Antonio. More information will follow. I'm gonna try to keep the cost very low by meeting up all the meetup events at places where there's no initial cost for it. But there will be at least one time where we need one of them auditoriums, one of them little ballrooms, so that we can do some talks. So I look forward to it. I want to thank everybody who donated to the channel this way. Y'all remember Angelina's birthday is this weekend, so you want a birthday present to my bride, right now. Uh, Thanks to all the members, the subscription holders. I appreciate you guys. I did find out that the part of the reason why the videos are not going as big and wide on Facebook has to do with advertisers, but also has to do with you guys' ability to share and comment. Share, like, and comment. They have put more pressure on the share, like, and comments in order for videos to go more viral. So if we want to increase the number of people who are coming to the channel, if you have that within yourself, you desire that for the channel to grow and for our community to grow, like, share, and comment. Even if you just put, thanks or hey, or just thumbs up or share it, I greatly appreciate it. It helps to grow the channel, especially on Facebook. YouTube, similar. It is the comments. Most of the emphasis is put on comments. So please comment and like and share. But I appreciate you guys. You guys have been great. My cigar, burning my fingers. So Monday, I'm going to have Kevin Wesley on here. We're going to have a conversation about the fact that Kevin and his family is moving to Medellin, Colombia, and what they're looking to do and build down there that will be a huge community difference maker. So that's going to be our conversation on Monday. I'm sure we'll get into some religious stuff too. But we are definitely, so we're going to have Kevin Wesley on Monday. So I hope you guys are, that excites you, get you on here for our Monday conversation. And you know, it's very rare when I know exactly what I'm going to talk about this far in ahead. But I had a good conversation with Kevin earlier today concerning his project that he's working on. And I think it's a great project. I'm always for building community, and that's what we're going to be doing. So I appreciate you guys. I look forward to it. Please share, like, all the videos that I make, and continue to watch them, and watch them all the way through. Even if you don't pay attention, just put them on, just let it play. Just let it play. Because time of watching matters as well. So I appreciate you. Love you. Y'all have a great day. Always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey. Good vibration. Oh, yeah. My bad. Right now. And click on the link that's in the description and sign up for Financially on Fire so that you can get yourself established. And this is going to be something, yeah, with Kevin being on here on Monday, this is going to become even more important that you do this. So the link is in the bio of this video, in the description of this video. So y'all have a great one, and I will talk to y'all Monday.